Hey there everyone, it's Gigi's Sober Son. Little change of scenery for water today. October 19th. My firstborn's birthday. Hopefully I'll get to spend some time with her later today. AA thought for the day. Do I realize that I do not know how much time I have left? It may be later than I think. Am I going to do the things that I know I should do before my time runs out? By the way, what is my purpose for the rest of my life? Do I realize all I have to make up for in my past wasted life? I gotta stop right there. I don't have to make up for anything. Yes, it's important for me to do good, but it's also my higher power gives me a redemption of those things. He enables me to use those things to good purpose, right? Reason I'm doing this video in this different location. I think I have done it from here before as I walked around, but right over there is the county jail behind those trees. And I've had the blessed opportunity to take meetings into the county jail once a month for the past few years now. And let me tell you, it does me good for sure, right? And the look on their faces, many of their faces after the meeting is priceless. It really is. And sometimes, well, I used to, when I knew my month was up, it was my turn to come up to this jail, I used to kind of roll my eyes internally. But after having come several times and got some kind of longevity in going, I just make it part of my life. And it definitely shows me how my experience can benefit others, and that even though I'll have to find the passage sometime where it talks about we're like passengers from a great ocean liner that has gone down, right? From steerage to stern, no matter what class you're in, we're all united in our basic salvation from sure death. That nobody's concerned about, first class passengers or whatever, fourth class. I don't know how the classes go in a ship, on a cruise ship, but everybody's just glad to be rescued, right? So that's where I don't have to make up for the past, right? I know that I'm redeemed. I know that my life has been redeemed, that all the negativity of my past can be put to good use if I choose to keep coming back and think in those ways. So, I continue. Do I know that I am living on borrowed time and that I would not have even this much time left without AA and the grace of God? That's for sure. Am I going to make what time I have left count for AA? No. AA is the vehicle. It's going to count for the kingdom. It's going to count for God. AA returned me to God. AA led me to God, and God led me to AA. Right? It's the grace of God that led me to AA, and AA helped me understand the God of my understanding, or the God of my misunderstanding, for that matter. It's a journey, man. If I ever figure God out, I'm lost. It's not good. My God would be too small. So, meditation for the day. We can believe that somehow the cry of the human soul is never unheard by God. It may be that God hears the cry, even if we fail to notice God's response to it. The human cry for help must always evoke a response of some sort from God. It may be that our failure to discern properly keeps us unaware of the response. But one thing we can believe is that the grace of God is always available for every human being who sincerely calls for help. Many changed lives are living proofs of this fact. I'm not a fan of how that first sentence is written. It says, we can believe that somehow the cry of the human soul is never unheard by God. Too many negatives. We can believe that somehow the cry of the human soul is always heard by God. It may be that God hears the cry. It may be that God hears the cry even if we fail to notice God's response to it. There's a passage somewhere that says, God does not make too hard of terms for those who seek. Right? That He answers always. And it's a matter of expanding our understanding of our higher power. My first year of sobriety helped me a huge amount, a huge deal. In enlarging my spiritual program, my spiritual life. It's so tidy as an AA thought for the day, as a meditation for the day, and as a prayer for the day. Those are 3 things that I had never done in my life consistently. It always took so much effort rather than just making little changes in my life. It's kind of like when you're running uphill, it is strenuous. And basically, even if you're starting out on a more spiritual way of life, initially it feels like you're running uphill, right? But one thing that I learned running cross country in high school was when you go uphill, when you're running uphill, you take shorter steps. Even if you have to walk, when you're hiking or something like that, it's not a sprint. You may do sprinting drills uphill when you're in training, but during the race, you don't sprint uphill. You take smaller steps, and it makes it more manageable, right? So it's a technique, and always remembering that you're in it for the long haul, man. You're in it for the long haul. It's not a class that you kick ass for 6 weeks and then you graduate and you can celebrate and party or whatever. I didn't realize that's what I was thinking in the early days. And I remember buying this actual book, not this very same actual book, but a copy of this book in the first year. And it was like the first meeting I went to at home, because I was in Turkey when I got sober. So when I got back to got back home to where I was stationed in England, I went to my first assignment, or my first meeting, and they had literature for sale. The meetings I went to in Turkey didn't have literature for sale. Presumably at the time it was way too difficult to get it overseas. And so, but in England apparently they figured it out. Anyway, so I bought a stack of books, and I remember saying to one guy, I have so much to learn. And he goes, well, you got the rest of your life. And even though I understood what he said at the time, I didn't really understand the full ramifications of that. Like, hey man, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know? I don't know how much different that would have made my early recovery. But, and whether I would have continued, for the entire time going to meetings. But this is, this was one of the books that was pivotal in my stack of books that I had. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may trust God to answer my prayer as He sees fit. I pray that I may be content with whatever form that answer may take. That is such a deep, deep prayer. And it's not easily recognized as such a deep thing, because, most of my prayers, most of my life have been transactional. God, do this, God, if you get me out of this jam, I'll fill in the blank, do whatever, like transactional kind of thing. I know that, God, please let me win $1 million or something like that in the lottery. God, please let me win this, whatever, and get a windfall of money. I know, God, please let me get a full ride basketball scholarship when I was in high school. You know what I mean? If I even thought that way. I don't think I did, but I am so glad I didn't get that full ride basketball scholarship. I would have fallen apart. I know I would have. I just did not have the emotional or spiritual capacity to really handle that level of notoriety or I just would have crashed and burned, I'm sure, to very greater or lesser degree. So a lot of the times I know that I'm better off if I don't get what I want, right? So I'm better off if I let go of what I think I want and just seek God's will for my life in all things, right? In all things. That, it says in the big book, is the proper use of our will, is to try to conform my will to God's will. That's the bottom line, really. So, look up, aim up, rise up. Love y'all.